Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another short war video. And right now we've gotten big news from pretty much everywhere around the world this morning, and it seems like the world is slightly on fire, but our biggest news right now is coming out of Asia, because we are seeing a war escalating between Thailand and Cambodia, as F-16s are now being used to conduct airstrikes, and civilian casualties are mounting rapidly. And meanwhile, Thailand is issuing an urgent warning to its citizens to leave Cambodia immediately amongst the risk of a broader conflict. And while that war is breaking out, we're also seeing the Yemeni Houthis have attacked yet another ship in the Red Sea, and a major explosion has been reported in Syria. And then while that is happening, we're also seeing in Russia a passenger plane has been found crashed in the eastern region, and in Ukraine, Zelensky's having a political change of heart about a controversial Ukrainian law. So very big news, and let's jump right into our first article, which goes to Polymarket Intel. And this right here is our biggest story of the day. Right now we're seeing the war that broke out last night between Thailand and Cambodia is escalating rapidly, and of course last night it got really ugly really quickly, and today we're seeing a continuation of that. And we're also seeing right here in this post, the Cambodian army is shelling Thailand's regions with artillery fire, and we do have this video here showing the initial moments of this artillery fire. So let's take a look at the video and see how widespread the fire really is. Alright, so right there you can see there is the artillery fire coming in right next to this guy driving right down the road. And what's disturbing about this is it looks like Cambodia is not being discriminate whatsoever about where they're firing their artillery, because there's some smoke right there, and clearly this is just a normal highway with a guy driving down it and civilians on the sides of the road. So this is not good. And we also saw last night that apparently a Thailand 7-Eleven was hit by the Cambodian artillery as well, indicating once again they're not being discriminate where they're striking, which can lead to a lot of civilian casualties. And we're getting confirmation this morning that there are indeed civilian casualties. So very ugly right off the bat, and we're seeing that right there in that video. But moving on to our next post here, this one's going to go to EnforcerNews, and we've also gotten word that the F-16 jets on the Thailand side and also tanks are now being used in the ongoing clashes between these two countries. And right here we can see some more details that apparently a Thai general who's the commander of the anti-Cambodia operations ordered the launch of Operation Yuta Bodin by land and air to counter Cambodia after the National Police Office reported the updated civilian death toll apparently increased to 12 people. So we can see right here, this is apparently the general that ordered it, and once again they're sending in F-16s to airstrike inside of Cambodia, and right here is apparently some of the damage caused most likely by the Cambodian shelling that prompted the F-16 strikes inside of Cambodia. So not good, like I said, and once again the ugly part is civilians are being involved in this very early, and we're hearing that there's apparently 12 people dead as a result of these strikes. So not good, and once again a very large escalation by the Cambodian side, and also a pretty large escalation by the Thailand side as well, indicating this thing is getting out of control really quick. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Firetux Network, and we got a geolocation of the F-16 strikes inside of Cambodia. And before we jump into the geolocation, let's jump into the video first, which shows apparently the airstrike from a drone or from the actual aircraft itself. So let's take a look at the airstrike and then take a look at the geolocation. Alright, so here is the airstrike right here. This appears to be filmed from a drone. It looks like a surveillance drone, but right there you can see there's a major explosion right there on the Cambodian side. This was conducted by a Thai F-16 jet, and you can see there is all the smoke coming up from it, and also it looks like they've added a little edit to it as well, I guess for the effect, but it looks like it did hit a target there in Cambodia. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what it hit, but we do have a geolocation here in just a minute to see exactly what this was. But once again, the F-16s are already being called out to perform airstrikes this early into the border conflict. So many people are already calling it a war. I would say right now it is fair to call it a war. It's a very early stage of the war, but I would say it's pretty fair to call it that. But we can see that here on this airstrike cam that it was struck on Cambodia. So let's take a look at the geolocation now. And right now you can see there is the location apparently where we're struck. There appears to be a temple here and also some other features. And we can see right there in the middle is apparently where this missile struck. And moving on to that geolocation, you can see there it is right there. So it's literally right across the border from Thailand right into Cambodia. Not very far over, but nonetheless it still is in Cambodia that we saw right there with that airstrike. So very interesting to see the geolocation and to see exactly where that was on a map that the Royal Thai Air Force did indeed strike. But moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to Firetux Network yet again, and we've also heard that Thailand's Department of Consular Affairs has issued an urgent warning that Thais in Cambodia are advised to leave immediately because apparently they can't guarantee their safety. And obviously with the two countries going to war with one another, that's definitely a situation where you would not want to be caught in enemy territory. So it looks like they are indeed calling for that, and I would say that's a pretty wise move, but also another indicator this thing's about to get out of control, because usually you wouldn't recall all of your civilians unless you believed it was about to get really, really nasty. So that's currently what we're hearing right now from Morning News TV3 out of that region. But with that, we're now moving on to our next post here, and this one goes to Visioner, and we've gotten some more video showing the visuals of the Royal Cambodian Army using their MLRS to shell Thailand border outposts. So let's take a look at this video as well. This is quite wild footage, and let's see exactly how bad these strikes are. And there you have it. An MLRS is firing right away. This is the Cambodians, by the way, firing right at Thailand. And some of these missiles are hitting populated areas. I want you to keep that in mind. These are actually hitting places where civilians are at. So that's the part to me that really is disturbing, is these guys apparently don't know either where they're aiming, or they know where they're aiming and they're committing war crimes, one or the other. But you can see there appears to be, it looks like a tree line on fire, probably as a result of that missile fire right there. And moving forward in the video a little bit more, you can actually see there apparently is showing the MLRS is flying through the sky right here in this video segment here. So that is what we're seeing, and that is what the Cambodians are currently doing to the Thai side. So very interesting to see right there on camera. Also, by the way, we do have a picture here showing the Thai Air Force F-16s responding to that incident, and there's a glimpse of one of them right here in this picture showing them flying in. There appears to be a second one off there to the left, but you don't see it in that frame. And once again, it's a very blurry picture, so very hard to tell exactly where this is. It's literally pointing right up at the sky, but we do see that there on the picture. But moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to EnforcerNews, and unfortunately, we have gotten more word about the civilian casualties that are being reported right now by Thai media. So I do want to make a disclaimer right off the bat that apparently this is old news by this point, because the general in Thailand in our last post stated that about 12 individuals were deceased through this clashes here, and this was old news, happened about a few hours back, where they said 9 civilians had been eliminated. But once again, that is old news. So roughly about 12 so far civilians have been eliminated during this fighting between the two countries. So that is currently the number we're running with, but we're having to wait for more confirmation to see if that number is indeed going to rise, because I have a feeling that unfortunately it is going to rise. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to AZ Intel, and also last night on the stream we covered this, but also there was a strike on the Phanom Dong Rock Hospital in Thailand as Cambodia launched their attack. So not only were 7-Elevens and civilian targets being hit, but also apparently the hospital was the target of a Cambodian strike as well, indicating that Cambodia is taking the gloves off right off the bat and not playing fair or by the rules of war whatsoever. So let's take a look at this video that we saw last night and see this strike happening live. So you can hear the artillery explosions right there in the background. This is the site of the hospital, by the way. And there appears to be the soldiers lying on the ground as these strikes are coming in. Here goes the guy crawling into the building here. This appears to be medical staff, once again, at a hospital. So clearly a war crime. You can't strike hospitals. It's against the rules of war. And you can see there's some more gentlemen here on the ground, and they're also all crawling inside to seek shelter away from these artillery rounds. So there goes some more guys crawling in. This guy right here can't get the door open, but they're crawling in through one doorway, and they're coming inside to safety. So that was the strike on the hospital, and once again, remarkable footage we got showing that strike on camera, and the odds of seeing that on camera were actually slim to none, because the fact that somebody would be recording, that's a miracle right there. So I'm glad they recorded it, so that way we have that documented and on camera. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Fine Network yet again, and we've now heard that China has weighed into the situation, because remember, China really has an interest in both Cambodia and Thailand, so it's a little bit interesting where they're going to side in this conflict. And as predicted, it looks like China has taken a middle-of-the-road approach, because the Chinese Foreign Ministry has expressed concern over Thailand-Cambodia border clashes, and they state that China is ready to act as a mediator to resolve the conflict, according to Morning News TV3. So China is probably going to ride the fence on this one. They're probably not going to take a side right off the bat. If they have to take a side, it might be the Cambodian side, because it looks like Thailand is heavily supported by the United States, so China might tend to side with Cambodia, but that's up in the air. We're really not sure, and it looks like China is going to play a neutral mediator in this situation, at least temporarily. So that is where China stands, for all the people asking about that. And once again, a very good question, because China is a major player right there in the region that could be interfering if things get really out of control. So that is very interesting to see. But with that, we're moving on to our next post here, and this one goes to Open Source Intel. And it's now time to change gears away from our Thailand and Cambodia news and onto our news out of the Middle East, because right now we're seeing some crazy things happening in that region as well. And right now we're seeing a major explosion has been reported in Idlib, Syria, and this was a very large explosion. Like, this was a massive explosion, and at first nobody was really sure what it was. But let's take a look at the video, see the explosion, and then we'll go over the aftermath and exactly what we believe this target actually was. And right there you can see there's the major explosion in Idlib, Syria. This is a bad sight to wake up to, and it looks like the cameraman woke up on the wrong side of the bed because he woke up and saw that, and that was not good to see. But at first, like I said, nobody was really sure what this was. But moving into our next post here, we get an idea of exactly what this target was, and apparently this is footage showing a massive explosion ripping through an ammo depot in rural Idlib. It apparently eliminated 4 people and injured over 100, and we actually have remarkable footage showing an up-close view of this ammo explosion here at the depot. So let's take a look at this video. Alright, so it's a usual day for this forklift certified individual right here, but as you can see out here in the distance, there's a little fire brewing up over there. And you just saw that catastrophic explosion. That was the explosion which we saw way far away on camera on that last video. That was the explosion literally right up close, right where this guy was filming. So not a good place to be when that went off. But as you can see, watching this one more time, there's the fire initially that started the whole thing, and it's about to go up in like 5 more seconds. And there it went, a humongous explosion. Now, if you're asking what caused that explosion, I'm not really sure. We're not even told what started the fire that led to the explosion. We're not told at all. But clearly the workers saw it. They took some shelter behind forklifts, which was obviously probably not enough, and they filmed the whole thing here on camera. So, a very bad explosion, and once again, we have been told that maybe there are saboteurs running around the region, so we're really not sure who started it or what started it. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to open source intel. And not only are we seeing major fires and also explosions in Syria, but also the Houthis are striking again, because apparently the UK MTO has reported a vessel was approached and fired on by a small craft out of Yemen, and then ordered to turn back toward Yemen as well. So taking a look here at the UK MTO warning, there is Yemen right here. You can see the coast of Yemen, and right there where the red circle is right in the center, that is where this incident occurred, and we're being told that small boats approached a vessel, they fired at it, and ordered it to turn to Yemen, and right now we're really not sure if the vessel complied with that order, or if the vessel had a team of armed guards on board. We simply don't know. But the big problem is the Yemeni Houthis are backheaded again, and they're still harassing vessels, and these are just normal shipping vessels that they're harassing. So they're back to it yet again today. Amidst everything else happening, the Houthis are deciding to act up. So very bad time for them to do that, and once again, that might force an Israeli or a U.S. response. But moving on here to our next post, this one goes to AZ Intel, and it's now time to move away from our Middle East news entirely and move on to our Ukraine-Russia news, because we've gotten some crazy news out of that region as well. We've also heard last night that a passenger plane out of Russia, an AN-24, was missing in the Amur region of Russia with 46 people on board, and the AN-24 plane was flying in apparently one of these routes near Khabarovsk, and near the final point, it failed to check in, and there's no contact with it according to emergency services, and there were over 40 passengers and 6 crew members on board this aircraft. Now, once again, the AN-24 is a bit of an old aircraft, and this aircraft specifically was very old. I believe it was a twin-propped aircraft, and it was flying through the Amur region of Russia when it went missing and also disappeared from radar. So obviously, right off the bat, most people expected the worst, and if you did expect the worst, I think you actually turned out to be correct, because we learned today that that plane crashed in Russia with the 48 people on board, and apparently all were unfortunately eliminated in this plane crash. And we also learned that it crashed about 15 kilometers from the city of Tenda in the Amur region, and once again, there were no reported survivors, and the cause of the crash is still unknown. Nobody knows why it went down, but I would presume that it was probably a maintenance issue, since this was a very old aircraft, but nobody really knows for certain. That's just a wild guess. And apparently this is the second incident involving these aircraft in Russia in the last 2 months. So we do have some video here showing the rescue footage, or at least the search efforts, so let's take a look at that. And there it is, a very unfortunate sight. There is the crash site of the AN-24 that went down with the 48 people. And once again, that's 48 people that perished in this crash. So nonetheless, it's very unfortunate and sad to see that. But it is here a crash. It looks like the middle of a forest right outside of Tenda. So once again, it would be really nice to know exactly what led to this. But it's obviously unknown right now. And all we see here is the wreckage from this helicopter footage. So a real bad tragedy right there in Amur, Russia. But moving on to our next post here, we also have one more video showing this. So let's take a look. We apparently see the helicopter that started the search initially in the region, so let's take a look at that. And there you can see it right there, a Russian search helicopter going over the area, sort of combing the area, looking for the crashed plane. This was the initial footage right here showing the search efforts. So very sad once again, and there you go. There's some more evidence of the efforts the Russians went through to go find it, because it disappeared from radar and it also didn't have radio contact, so they had to do a wide search to find that wreckage, and they eventually found it as of this morning. But with that, moving on to our next story here, this one goes to Clash Report, and we've also gotten another big story out of Russia that apparently today Russia has officially commissioned its newest nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine into the Navy. And unfortunately, I can't pronounce the name of it, but here is a picture allegedly showing the brand new sub that Russia has in their arsenal. So they may not have a good aircraft carrier, but they apparently, at least allegedly, have a new nuclear-powered submarine that you can see right here. So, take that for what you will. We'll do some more deep diving on that later on the stream, but there's a new sub allegedly that Russia has. But moving into our next post, this one goes to Tendar. We've also seen a big hit by the Ukrainians on an FSB base located directly behind the Russian border in the Bryansk region. It apparently got hit by an AASM hammer bomb and was launched by Ukrainian Air Force fighters. So let's take a look. This is not the first FSB post to get hit by the Ukrainians, but this is another big catch by the Ukrainian Air Force. Alright, so 1 minute you see the FSB building standing, and the next minute it is not standing, and it looks like they need some desperate renovations to the building, because it looks like it has some scratches on it, but it looks like this is not a good thing for the FSB, and their whole building has been taken down, and we do see that here in the video. So another big hit by Ukraine right there near the border regions of Russia. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Nexta, and we've got some big news coming out of Ukraine, separate from the attacks we've seen inside of Russia. We got some big news coming out of Ukraine in a political sense that has caused a little bit of a stir inside of the Ukrainian government. So basically, if you're not familiar with the situation, to wrap this up and basically sum it up in a nutshell, there were some anti-corruption organizations in Ukraine that were independent, but basically Zelensky signed a law into being that turned those organizations into assets of the President's Office of Ukraine. So that concerned a lot of people and made a lot of people believe that it was stripping the anti-corruption organizations of their power, and we're learning today that the French President Macron told Zelensky that was not a smart move and he should undo that. So Zelensky apparently took that advice to heart and also listened to his people, because he has changed that today, or at least is making an attempt to change it, and we learned that here in our post from the Kyiv Post. Because we have learned that Zelensky submitted a draft law to Parliament that prohibits the Prosecutor General from issuing directives to anti-corruption agencies, and the agencies have confirmed that the bill restores full procedural powers and guarantees their institutional independence. So it looks like Zelensky is making the right move here, because I would say that I didn't really agree with his move either. It did have at least the optics of looking very bad. So it looks like Zelensky is realizing that a little bit late, but at least he's recognizing it, and he's backing off of it, and he's restoring the full independence of these organizations. So it looks like he made the right move, and that's a very relieving sign to see right there, because it looks like the Ukrainian people are also relieved as well. But with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news for the video. So if you found today's video informative, because once again, we're covering a lot of fronts and a lot of topics all at once, smack that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well for more daily war updates just like this one. And also, be sure to join us tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern for our nightly war news stream, because we have a lot of stuff more to cover throughout the day, and it is stacking up very quick. So be sure to join us for the stream. And also, if you want to support our channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and I'm putting the link down below in the description for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership, and it can be as little as $5 a month, and that's a huge help to our channel. And once again, it's all of your support that makes this possible, and we appreciate every single one of you very much for that. But once again, be sure to join us at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight for the war news stream, and with that, bye-bye for now.